In this video, I briefly discuss how healthy habits prevent damage from insulin resistance, leading to a healthy outcome, or if you take a different path, to diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and dementia, if you choose the easy life. So we'll begin here with insulin resistance. In this case, fat, liver, and muscles no longer respond normally to insulin. In this case, it leads to higher blood sugar, of course, and we call that hyperglycemia. And that then can cause cells to be force-fed glucose. Glucose is the blood sugar, and certain cells are vulnerable to being force-fed glucose. They just can't turn off their glucose intake. And so these vulnerable cells include small blood vessels in the eyes, kidney. They also include neurons. So these small blood vessels are called capillaries. So we see these in cardiovascular and the nervous system. Also, there's energy factories in the mitochondria. They produce energy. They're in every cell of the body, and they're like nuclear power plants. And they actually carry free radicals, which we can think of as nuclear waste. It's really very similar. And those have to be handled carefully, obviously. And so if these cells are being force-fed, these systems are being pushed, then this leads to free radical production and excess free radical production that may not be able to be handled by the body. We're always producing this, but if it gets out of hand, they can cause damage to all sorts of other systems. We'll talk about that in a bit. So insulin resistance also leads to an increase in fat in the blood. There's a turnover of fat. That causes increase in blood fat. There's also increased production of triglycerides and cholesterol by the liver. So to give you an idea, so when we talk about cholesterol, we're thinking about HDL and LDL. HDL is basically fat in the blood that's carried back to the liver. And then we have fat from the liver that's carried to the cells, or fat that's in the blood that's carried to the cells, and we call that LDL. And this fat can be force-fed to these same tissues, these vulnerable cells. And that can then lead to more free radical production. And then the consequences we talked about earlier, or we'll talk about more later. So what is done for insulin resistance pharmaceutically? Well, obviously that's insulin, right? There's also metformin and other things, but the later consequence is to actually take insulin injections. So what about meals? So meals can, for fatty meals, this will cause increased blood fat, and so there's medications that used to be given, not so popular anymore because they had side effects of diarrhea, and they caused, well, their purpose was to decrease fat absorption, but that didn't always work out so well. So what are some natural solutions? Well, there's all sorts of natural solutions for free radicals. So nutrient-dense foods, quality proteins and fats, obviously not toxic habits. Exercise actually will increase free radicals, but it's a good way to reduce free radicals ultimately as well. So there's a balance. There's always a balance. Sleep, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the following video. How sleep cleans out toxins from the brain. And your supplementation, of course, especially antioxidants and probiotics for the gut, because the gut is key. So that's your internal environment as well. We often can produce free radicals from within our gut, but it's also where we digest and absorb nutrients that can help to quench those free radicals. And many of these same factors are useful for this insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity, so that the muscles, liver, and fat respond appropriately to insulin. Now, what about pharmaceuticals for this fat in the blood? Well, there's these cholesterol medications, especially the statin medications, they have a problem. Now they do seem to work, especially the science shows they especially work for people who have already had a heart attack and then preventing them from having from dying from another heart attack. That's the one cohort that seems to be especially helpful for, but they obviously use this on everybody who's got a little bit high cholesterol. Now we saw a little life ring jump in there beside it on the image, and that was because even medical doctors now are prescribing coenzyme Q10 with their statins, often anyway, because we've known for a long time that the way these statin medications work is they stop or slow the function of an enzyme that makes cholesterol. Well, that enzyme also helps to make coenzyme Q10, and so one goes with the other. And so if you take this medication, then you need to take coenzyme Q10 to prevent the side effect of at least that side effect. Thanks for joining me on this journey of how healthy habits prevent damage from insulin resistance. We learned how this extra energy from extra sugar and extra fat in the blood would seem to generate much energy, but the system backs up. And this complex system of electron transport, just as a power grid cannot store electricity, neither can our mitochondria. But this nuclear waste has already been produced and it's got to be disposed of. So it comes in the form of free oxygen species or toxins. And this damage occurs also especially to the mitochondria, which are the energy-producing cells, organelles, and it causes long-term energy and function deficits in the body. So please apply this information and learn more about it so you can prevent the damage in your life. This is Dr. Jay Hobbs signing off from Synergy Chiropractic and Natural Health. Hope you have a wonderful day. May God bless you.